Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a News Forum special report. I'm Vonny Sweetland, and as we continue our journey on the subject of advancing Canada's Black community, we're brought to a critical juncture where criminal justice, policing, and identity collide, not just in Canada, but all across North America. The trial of 18-year-old acquitted Kenosha killer Kyle Rittenhouse in the U.S. is a perfect example. After the defendant's acquittal late last year, many politicians, athletes, and dignitaries came out to share their feelings. Those in support saying they were happy with the verdict and that the case was the clearest-cut self-defense case they'd ever seen. And those in opposition saying the outcome was a miscarriage of justice from a system that treats defendants unequally. Statistically, we know that Black perpetrators of gun crime, even in self-defense, are proven to serve sentences that are 20% longer than that of their counterparts. And you also have folks saying, if this was a young Black man who committed this crime, would the outcome have been different? The overall subject of criminal justice, policing, and advancing Black communities across North America is a fascinating one. Here to unpack is community advocate and culture critic Idris Orughu. Good morning, Idris. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good morning, Vonny. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, just as I said in the opener, I think it's really important to have these discussions, especially during Black History Month. We know that these items need to be discussed. I'm just going to jump right into it. You obviously haven't been living under a rock, Idris. I'm sure you've heard about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. You've seen the verdict. Did you feel justice was carried out?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a very difficult time. It has been. One would have expected something different. However, it wasn't unexpected. This was expected. The folks, when we talk about critical race theory right now, and I hope people will understand why I'm using critical race theory. Supporters of critical race theory, outside of knowing that some of the tenets of critical race theory is that race it's not a natural thing, and that was socially constructed. The other part was that the law and legal system in the United States is inherently racist, and that it serves to promote economic and political inequalities between whites and Black. Now, if you believe in that, the outcome of this trial will let you know that, confirms that this was set up to have this particular outcome, just like we've seen with other cases.
Sure. And what do you say to folks who will argue back and say, look, this was a clear cut of self-defense. He was chased by people with weapons and he was protecting himself?
I will completely disagree. The notion that you arm yourself with an AR-15, I believe that's what it was, you go across state line. I mean, that in itself, you don't arm yourself, even though I believe it's an open carry state, but to go into an environment that was already volatile tells me you intend to use that weapon. And if you watch through the trial, not being a lawyer, but there are certain things that perhaps some people can argue it's common sense, but may not be legally accurate. But nevertheless, the fact that nothing even stuck and he killed, it was an overkill, shooting people multiple times, 1, 2, killing 2, and maiming 1. There's no way you can sit down and look at the whole picture and say, well, that was justified and that he was protecting himself. So the other question a lot of people like myself would like to ask, or that we've been asking is, had that been a young Black man, would that man be afforded the same privilege that Kyle Rittenhouse was offered? And the answer is absolutely no.
Well, I will say this, and I'm sure you may have heard of this as well, rapper DaBaby, who has been in the news as well for a multitude of different issues, was also known to have been in a situation where he had to protect himself. This was maybe late last year. He did shoot a victim, killed this victim, and it was self-defense. It was found that he did nothing wrong. So do you feel that this is a similar situation?
Not all cases of self-defense are the same thing. The stand your ground law, I believe that's what in Florida, we saw how that happened. We've seen some of these cases, and the problem is I don't know the details of the baby's own situation.
Well, just before the break, we were speaking with Idris Orughu, and we were comparing the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict to the verdict that the baby had in a previous case where he, too, was charged originally, and it was found that he acted in self-defense when he shot and killed a victim. Idris, I'm going to let you finish your thought that you just had before the break.
Well, what I was saying, without knowing the details of the case of the baby, the one we just observed, I think this was happening live and everybody watched it. Now, having a clever defense counsel could just focus on the fact that the hand motion of the gentleman that had the skateboard was actually meant to hurt him. But if you were in that situation, what would a normal, a rational thinking person do when someone has a gun in their hands in an already volatile situation? Kyle Rittenhouse did not come to Kenosha to make friends. He came to Kenosha to kill. Simple as that. So the notion that we will compare that without knowing the details of the baby, I don't know if the baby had an intruder in his home and he had to protect himself and his family, but this was an already volatile situation with people protesting, and you came into that scene with a gun. There's no way you did not plan to hurt, to maim, or to kill.
Well, to be fair, he had stated that he went there with a gun. It's an open carry state, and he was going there for the purpose of rendering support to people that may have been injured, that may have needed protection. I believe that was how he had stated.
So let's assume that was factual. The question is, how many times did he shoot the first victim? So after shooting the first victim, you went ahead and shot the second and killed the second victim, then maimed the third person. So Kyle Rittenhouse was on a mission. It wasn't just the legalities of the case. One can say the prosecutor wasn't strong enough, but at the same time, what the rest of us who watched this case and who watched this unfolded live would ask ourselves, would a young Black person put in the same situation be acquitted? And the answer is no.
Right.
And that's the problem with the legal system, where it favors certain group at the expense of others.
Yes, a lot of people have argued that point. We know that a lot of folks, both from politics, from sports, from Hollywood, have come out and shared different sentiments. Let's switch gears for a minute. Tell us a little more about your work in the community, because I know you and some of your colleagues worked closely with the Ford government's education minister to end things like academic streaming in Ontario. What are some of the efforts that went into that?
Well, at least we're seeing some of the successes with the ending of streaming, suspension for JK students. The report on education was overwhelmingly against young Black students. And the case of education is not much different from policing. We can see how it's tied. An example was one of the things we succeeded in doing was ending the SRO program, which is the School Resource Officer program in Peel. I know in Toronto District School Board, they didn't have that. When we did that, this is a connection of how the impact of young Black men in schools translates into society. The Peel Police, it's been known for a very long time that Peel Police have continuously maintained the school-to-prison pipeline by criminalizing young Black men. And we took it upon ourselves to end that program. While we pushed to end the program, during a consultation with the Peel Police, one of the senior officers admitted to the community clearly that the SRO program was well intended, but what it has morphed into was to completely target young Black men. And it was used as a self-promoting tool for officers who wanted to gain promotion.
Sure.
This was admitted.
Well, I'm just going to push back a little there, because is this factual? Do you have any statistics? Do you have any evidence to prove those statements to be true?
Oh, this is public record. I wasn't the only myself in that forum. I challenged Peel Police to release the tape, which my late brother, Caller, did. That was factual because I was there and have brought this up in so many other engagements. So let me give you some of the details that came out in Peel School, with Peel Police. So the use of force report that Peel Police just released, I believe in 2020, 975 individuals. The Peel Police used force on 975 individuals.
And that, of course, is egregious if that, in fact, did happen. We're going to pick up just after these messages because I want to give you some time to unpack all of these very important details.
For sure.
Picking up where we left off, we've got Idris Orughu. We were just chatting about the Peel Region School Board and some of the policing measures that they had taken. Idris, I'll let you pick up where you left off.
So what I was saying was in the recently released report by Peel Police on the use of force, 975 individuals had force used against them. 345 of that numbers were targeted, if I may use, on Black residents. 275 were white, and 165, which makes up 17%, were South Asian.
Well, now, I just have to ask, like, when you say targeted, how do you know that this took place, that it was specific?
Well, we have to go, I loosely use the word targeted, but when you look at the numbers, these same numbers apply to not only in Peel Police, in Ottawa, in Toronto. The data speaks the same language, that Blacks are disproportionately impacted by the use of force. So if I may just finish the point, you have to understand that in Peel, majority of the population, 50% of the population comprised of 50.8% of South Asian, people of South Asian descent. Blacks comprise of about 15.3%. This is based on the 2016 data, census data. Now, the use of force that impacted Black people was at 35%. So when you see the numbers, it was beyond the general population of residents of Peel. And this same pattern fits the same thing. You go to Ottawa in 2017, 2013, the Ottawa police conducted the longest and more detailed. It was called the Traffic Stop Race Data Collection. And in that report that came out, they started in 2017, was the longest ever conducted by any police in Canada. They found out that Middle Eastern men were 3.1 more likely to be stopped, and Black people were 2.3 times overrepresented in that data. So the same pattern fits in every police jurisdiction. Right. So it's not surprising that we're seeing this. The data is there to support the disproportionate impact, either in the use of force or police killing, on Black people.
Sure.
So it's
and what do you say to folks who, when we talk about taking police officers, resource officers, I should say, out of schools, what do you say to folks who might say, I think that makes schools a bit more dangerous? I know recently there was a 15-year-old who was stabbed to death at a Brampton school.
Well, unless you can prove to me that a lot of these crimes are occurring in the school premises, in the absence of that, which would challenge the police, they were unable to do that, then there's no merit in having police officers in schools, because the impact on police officers, and one specifically, as admitted by senior police officers in Peel, that the SR program was well intended, but it has morphed into a tool being used by police officers to seek promotion and enhance their investigative skills. It should not be off the backs of young Black students. That was confirmed. So police officers are meant to be in the community, not in schools, because the impact was terrible on Black students, especially. So the case, unless you can come up to me and tell me there are more crimes happening within the school premises than it is in society.
Right.
Then we can have a conversation. In the absence
Well, I
of
think that, again, if those situations did in fact take place, then I would have to be in agreement with you. But we'll have some fact checkers look into those statistics, into some of those claims, because we do want to make sure that all of these things are factual. And if they are, then it brings me to my next question. How do we make things better? Where do we go from here?
The first thing for me is recognizing that young Black children's lives are as equally important as that of others. Without humanizing Black people, this will continue to happen. This is not an issue that can be addressed with just one policy. Society itself has to change, from the media to policing to education. And this is the impact of racism that is embedded in our system. Whether we admit it or not, there's enough data supporting this claim. I'm not just fabricating this. You can look at all the reports within the school system, within the policing system, childcare services. It's the same thing. Blacks and indigenous people are being incarcerated, are being harmed, are being maimed at a higher rate than the regular population.
Well, I don't disagree with that. The only area where I think I would want a bit more information is around the statement you made that police officers were using this policy, targeting young Black men for the purpose of a promotion. I think that's something that
I stand by that, Vonny. I stand by that statement because it was made to me and other community people in Peel. Peel police have the recording of that statement.
Perfect. Well, we'll pick up just after these messages. With statistics showing a very real school-to-prison pipeline for young Black men in North America, you obviously defied that odd, Idris. You've made a success of yourself. You're sitting here today speaking about these important issues. You've evaded those statistics. In large part, I'd say we both have. I grew up in a priority neighborhood in the GTA myself. But how did you personally do it? And what do you think other young Black men need to do to be successful and avoid some of these pitfalls?
There's no doubt that, yes, I made it. Other people made it, and you expect that the rest of the young Black family children can make it. But when you're being overly criminalized, everyone's mental framework is different. I was raised in perhaps not necessarily a single family system, but I wasn't raised up here. I came here when I was young. Nevertheless, being in this community being in this country for over 27 years right now, I can see the difference in either family structure. Now, I will go on the record to say there are a lot of issues that are impacting Black families. But nevertheless, racism is a big part. It can have an impact on you mentally, emotionally, and economically. And it's better for us as a society, if we want to continue to strive and be progressive, to uplift the rest of our people who are falling behind in so many ways. The data in terms of poverty, home ownership, unemployment, it's there to support why so many young children may not be able to get to the next step. And as a society, I think we owe it to those people. Canada especially owes it. If we are good together, we make a better country and a better society.
I couldn't disagree with that fact at all. And on the subject of policing, because of course we unpacked quite a bit there, again, where do we need to go? How do we make policing better, particularly policing in communities of color? What steps need to be taken?
Well, one of the steps I think, and I'll use Peel Police as an example. In the history of Peel Police, somebody can check this, we've only had a Black community member that served in the police board. Now, understanding the dynamics happening in Peel, one would have thought that you would have more Black people serving or having served in Peel Police Board. Now, the lack of a Black person in Peel Police Board does not lend to the Black community seeing themselves as being represented in Peel Police Board. And you can look at the ranks in the hiring and in the leadership of Peel. You don't have people like you. So you have to be able to have people like you in the system so that you can understand and be able to read from where they're coming from. This is the essence of diversity. Diversity isn't just having figures in different places. It allows people to be able to view things differently from different angles. The policing should start from that. You look at the ranks and file of policing, not too many police officers from this community work in this community. Those things ought to change as well. And you can say the same thing with education. You need to be able to have people who can interact and who can build trust with the communities that the police. So far, it isn't happening, even with the leadership in Peel Police. And I can say that this also can be seen in the leadership of other police, from Toronto Police and Ottawa Police Department. We see the same thing. So in order to be able to interact with people and build trust with the community has to feel that you care enough for them.
Right, right. Of course, I think this is an investment that communities need to take. It's an investment that police need to take. Everybody has to come to the table. Everybody has to do their part, because at the end of the day, we cannot move forward unless we're working together. I really appreciate you coming on today to discuss and litigate some of these very important subjects. And all I can say is I really wish you the best, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Vonny. Thank you for having me. And you have a fantastic day.
You as well. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to everybody at home as well. The subject of advancing Canada's Black community and Black communities all across North America is a large undertaking. But with education, understanding, and togetherness, anything is possible. I encourage our viewers to continue learning about these subjects and helping to create better outcomes for all of us. I'm Vonny Sweetland, and as always, all voices matter.
Hi, I'm Danielle Smith, host of the Danielle Smith Report, where I sit down for a weekly conversation with the top minds and leaders in the Canadian industry and energy sectors. Our mission is to unpack some of the biggest issues and policy decisions happening today so you can better understand what it means for you. Watch me weekly, right here on the News Forum.